This is TomoNews for Thursday, December 1st.
Lost German Shepherd sees family looking for new dog at shelter. This pooch hasn't had the easiest life so far, and her story just got even more heart-wrenching. Not too long ago, the 2-year-old German Shepherd was out in the yard of her family's California home when for some reason she hopped the fence. The neighbors living next door weren't too thrilled and called animal control to have her taken away. Sitting and waiting in a pen at the shelter, the young dog's eyes lit up when she saw her family walk by. Her family came over to talk to her and pet her through the fence. As you can see in this video, she was undeniably ecstatic about going home. If only that were the case. In a dastardly twist, her owners told staff at the shelter they actually came by looking for a new dog. Apparently, the dog's father had recently passed away and she'd been crying ever since. Her owners were tired of listening to her whimpering and figured the best thing to do was to leave her at the shelter and find a new pet instead. A sad tale, no doubt, but this pup's days may be looking up. Renamed Zuzu after the daughter in the classic Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life, the Downey Animal Care Center staff intend to make sure, from now on, she gets to enjoy exactly that. After her story was published to Facebook last week, messages from all over the country have been pouring in from people dying to offer Zuzu a new forever home. Looks like it just may be a wonderful life after all, huh Zuzu?
Man gets big payout for unscheduled night in jail. A man who was accidentally locked up in a Chicago jail for more than 30 hours was this week awarded $600,000 in compensation. 51-year-old Ferret Polk was visiting his son at the Cook County Jail in July 2014 when guards told him to go down the hallway and turn right. Following the guards' directions, Polk entered a visiting room used for super maximum security prisoners, only for the door to slam shut behind him. As it was a weekend, the room wasn't being used and nobody could hear Polk shouting for help. Polk spent 32 hours locked up without any food or water, no bed to sleep in, and nowhere to answer the call of nature. So while it wasn't exactly Shawshank Redemption, the jail still clearly had some explaining to do. Polk was busted out when he broke a sprinkler head, and the fire department showed up to see what the problem was. However, Polk's incarceration wasn't quite over. He was handcuffed and questioned before he was released, and also had to get stitches in one of his thumbs from when he broke the sprinkler. Polk said he thought he would die in the jail, and sued for emotional trauma. He also said he's been unable to return to the jail to visit his son, who's being held there on drugs charges. On Monday, Polk was awarded a $600,000 settlement. A spokeswoman for the jail described the incident as a bizarre set of circumstances and said they were sorry. Baby thrown from car in accident and lives. Last Friday night, 8-month-old Bryce Hale was traveling by car with her mom, Justice Lawson, and some other family and friends. Her grandma, Trina Johnson, was driving. They were on Interstate 30 in Texarkana, Arkansas, when suddenly an 18-wheeler reportedly sideswiped their car. This made the vehicle flip, ejecting Bryce in the process. Her family hunted high and low for her, but to no avail. Lawson, Bryce's mama, said looking for her was the worst 15 minutes of her life. But amazingly, firefighters and a Good Samaritan soon discovered the baby in a nearby drainage ditch, just waiting for them to get her out. This was some 25 feet from where the accident occurred. Authorities reckon she rolled down a hill and into the drain after the crash. But what's even more astounding is that Bryce came out of the ordeal with nothing more than a scratch on her forehead. All of the passengers are now out of the hospital, except for Bryce's grandma Trina, who was hit by a passing vehicle following the crash. As it turns out, Bryce wasn't properly restrained, but the family wasn't cited for the infraction. The driver of the truck, on the other hand, received a citation for making an unsafe lane change.
Badger and Coyote photographed hunting together in epic team-up. Out in the wilderness of Wellington, Colorado, a tandem of typically fierce competitors has entered the running for planet Earth's Animal Odd Couple of the Year. A wily coyote and a burrowing badger. The photos have been snapped over the course of the past month, and have nature enthusiasts across the internet wanting to learn more about their work as a tag team. As individual hunters, they do just fine, but together they strike fear into the hearts of their prey and drum up a fair bit of excitement for the likes of us humans. On the surface, it may seem an unlikely pairing, but underneath, the badger and the coyote's unspoken partnership has the potential for major rewards. The coyote and the badger share a common appetite for prairie dogs, marmots, and ground squirrels, but each has their own way of prepping the menu. The quick-footed coyote is adept at chasing down its dinner, pouncing on its prey at the perfect moment. However, the meal is not made easy. The rodents give themselves a chance by diving into burrows and escaping underground. The badger, meanwhile, is an expert at excavation, known for its supreme digging skills, able to unearth its dinner within seconds. But if the mark manages to give him the slip, it just might have a shot at outrunning its more sluggish slayer. But when the two team up, the unfortunate prey animals find themselves at a double disadvantage, the coyote covering territory above ground and the badger down below. The dynamic duo of carnivorous creatures has been observed trekking around in parts of Canada, the United States, and Mexico. Typically, they're most likely to form an allegiance during the summer months, as the badger has enough success on its own with those who try to hide during the thick of winter. While working together does breed some notable benefits, that doesn't mean the two are interested in dining at the same table. Whomever makes the kill gets to eat the feast. That's generally the rule. But in the meantime, having a bit of company to trot alongside across the continent's vast prairie lands probably isn't the worst thing in the world for a couple of loners.
Audacious thief steals pot of gold. A surveillance video released by the NYPD this week has captured the moment a daring thief made off with a pot of gold in broad daylight in Midtown Manhattan. The footage shows the intrepid opportunist stealing an 86-pound bucket of gold flakes, worth nearly $1.6 million, from an armored truck on September 29th. Now, you're probably wondering who would leave a pot of gold just lying around on the street. Well, when one security guard went to make a pickup, the other remembered he'd left his cell phone in the cab. Obviously, no one wants to miss a Facebook update or the chance to play Pokemon Go, so it's understandable that the guy went back to get his phone. But the cops say it was during this 20-second window that the thief saw his chance and took it. According to the cops, the suspect is a Hispanic man aged between 50 and 60 years old. He's 5'6", weighs 150 pounds, and was wearing a black vest, green shirt, blue jeans, and carrying a black messenger bag. Oh yeah, did we mention he was also carrying an 86-pound bucket of gold that was so heavy he had to keep stopping for breath, for Christ's sakes? The thief made off east down 48th Street before completing his getaway near 3rd Avenue. That's a 10-minute walk for you and me, but it took our ballsy leprechaun an hour to make the half-mile journey. Some reports said the thief got into a van at 49th Street and 3rd Avenue, but others said he simply disappeared. And it's not clear from the footage if this could be the van in question. The cops think the guy is hiding out in Florida, around Orlando or Miami, but there's been no sign of him or the loot. Let us know if you've got any idea of what someone could do with 86 pounds of gold flakes. Crash investigators try to determine if plane ran out of fuel. Investigators probing the site of this week's plane crash in Colombia are trying to determine whether or not the plane ran out of fuel. Moments before La Mia Airlines Flight 2933 crashed on Monday, its co-pilot reportedly told Medellin Airport Control that the plane suffered a total electrical failure without fuel. The flight was carrying 77 passengers, including Brazil's Chapecoense football team, flight crew, and journalists from Santa Cruz in Bolivia. 71 were killed in the crash. The distance to Medellin is 1,839 miles. La Mia 2933 was reportedly a British Aerospace 146 Avro RJ-85 plane with a maximum fuel capacity that would carry it 1,842 miles. La Mia Airlines CEO Gustavo Vargas told Reuters that the decision of whether or not to refuel en route is at the pilot's discretion. The plane didn't explode when crashing, and so far, investigators haven't found traces of fuel at the crash site. Nearly all members of the Chapecoense team were killed in the crash.